Hey guys, this is Byron. I'm making this on my iPhone, so sorry if it's all shaky, but first suggestion is when drawing, use a mechanical pencil. The lead inside a mechanical pencil cannot break or shatter or splinter like in number 2 pencils. Number 2 pencils, in my opinion, are best for detailed shading and lighting effects, but for your lines, I suggest that you use a mechanical pencil. When drawing a character like Batman, or any character or person for that matter, you have to understand that to be able to draw a head, you basically need to be able to draw an egg. Divide the egg into 4 parts, with the top 2 parts having lesser value than the bottom 2. After that, you want to add structure so that you know how the head is going to fit. In other words, add a neck, a little bit of muscle line, just so you can understand when you start to draw the details in the face, you know how it falls into line with the rest of the character. Then, slowly start to add a little bit more detail. For instance, the jawline. Very important for any character, person, but especially when drawing anime or comics, you have to be able to have a strong jawline. They define your character in a lot of ways. Now for Batman, most people just kind of draw a straight line for the mask to conceal the ears. I, however, like to add a little bit of a bump just because if the man's truly wearing a skin-tight mask, his ears are going to add a little bit of pressure. You want to keep it, in my opinion, as real as possible. Add a little bit more fine line as you go. It's just something that happens naturally whether you're paying attention or not, and everything ends up falling together. Then, for Batman, you want to add, some people call them the ears, some people call them the horns, I just call them the top of his mask. Just because I don't really think they make sense to the character, Batman with horns or ears. However, that's how it's designed, it looks awesome, so that's what we're going to do. Then you want to kind of add a dark line to the top part of the head there. So, you started out with an egg, no definable shape, you cut it into 4 pieces, added a little bit of a muscle tone and neck so that you knew what the head was sitting on so that it would make sense, and now you have an outline. Outlines are great, but what's most important is what you fill it in with. For the Batman mask, you've got to remember, it falls on his nose. So add a little bit on the side here for what's going up his jawline. Cut it off right about halfway up the ear, maybe a little bit less than that, and plan out where the nose would be if he didn't have a mask. Now that's where the 4 parts of the dividing the egg come in handy. You get to see what would make sense if the mask wasn't there. Then you use that to cover up the nose, like Batman has. Now, also with that line that you made for the nose, you can determine where an eye would be, which would be generally in these locations right here. So you add a little bit of a stern look to him, just because Batman's always pretty pissed off. Oh, and also, if you do make mistakes, it's okay. What we're doing at the end of the video will help you correct those. That's how I do it anyway. I leave the mistakes because I come back, and mistakes help you make it perfect. For the Batman mask, you want to add a little bit of a straight line down the middle. Just something that, if you were looking at Batman in 3 dimensions, he would have a little bit of a nose part that would stick off his face. This line helps illustrate the seam that keeps the mask connected, like so. Then, do your best to add in the mouth. My opinion of Batman's mouth is that it should be serious. A lot of people draw him very angry. In my opinion, Batman's not always as pissed off as he's displayed. He should just look very serious, very ready to do what needs to be done. Add a little bit of a cheekbone line there. And then comes in just a little bit of scratching detail you pick up over time in order to illustrate seam, muscle development, cape, anything to really help the look of your character. Now, I'm sorry if this has looked odd simply because, well, I'm drawing it with the camera, but that's how it actually looks. Now what you want to get next is the Sharpie. Sharpies are great for one specific thing. You get to make your picture pop. You get to make it really stand out and look definitive. However, use your Sharpie mainly for the outline and or shading, because the inside, where his eyes and his mouth are, the line will be too thick if you use a Sharpie. You can use it for the outline of the jaw and the face, stuff like that. And yes, I'm trying to make the lines a little bit messy just because whenever I sketch a Batman, I leave it a little messy for whatever shading may come after. As you can see, I've definitely changed the eyes a little bit. It happens when you draw. Sometimes you draw one thing, and what you put down is something completely different. In my opinion, what I like to call that is artist's mind. Because what you do the first time isn't always the best, it's just what your mind has in plan. The second time around, though, is usually what you want displayed. I'm going to put down my Sharpie for a second, and I'm going to grab my fine-lined marker pen. It's to help with the mouth and stuff like that. Sorry, my hand's going to be in the way in doing this, guys. Now what you'll see that I've illustrated is the line for the seam of his lips and his bottom lip. When drawing men, you don't want to draw an upper lip unless they are of African American descent and or Native American. You do that because those two skin tones that those individual groups carry do add a lighting effect to the top of their lips. Also, people from Latin America and or Italians, you want to do that for the upper lips. That's just a racial depiction more than anything. That's just how it is with comic books, unfortunately. For Batman, I like to add a little bit of stubble, just, some lines along his jaw. Because if, you're a billionaire playboy who spends his night beating up criminals, you don't really see a point in shaving, I don't think. Then you want to go in and use that fine pen to add some thin lines of detail. This right here is called cross-hatching, I believe is the artistic term. It's the best way to illustrate shade in a drawing without completely blacking it out, rather. I'm sorry, this is just hatching, this isn't cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is when you do one thing like that, and then you come back through and go the other way, so as to create two different lines parallel, but escalating in their slant, so that it creates that look. I like to do that along the side of his mask, as if to illustrate the back part of it is somewhat in the foreground, just because Batman's face is big. Do that. Do a little bit of a seam again. You really want to illustrate something that makes Batman look realistic. Now I realize this is taking a little bit longer. Sorry. Usually my Batman don't take this long, but this is the first video I've ever made for drawing, as well as the first one I've ever done while holding a phone, looking through the phone's camera and drawing my picture. It's not exactly simple. Now, for Batman's mask, to make it really look realistic, while this in and of itself looks good, I like to go a step further and add a little bit of a shade up under his nose cover, I guess would be the best way to call it, because it's definitely not a beak. Please don't call it a beak. It's not a beak. Do that. Add a little bit of a shade for his bottom lip. Definitely some shade for up under his jaw. Batman's always kind of got a tilting down look, as if to be looking down on you and judging you, in my opinion. Batman should be displayed as a fierce character and illustrated the same way. Alright, now we've pretty much almost got it done. I'll probably add a little bit more right here. One thing you're going to notice is how I went down, then up, and then down. One thing I've learned from looking at comic books is that they always leave a little bit of shine, which makes sense for a lighting effect if a person is decked out in nothing but black. So you just kind of contrast it on the other side like so. And it creates that effect when you look at a drawing. Don't outline it. When you outline it, it takes away the fact that light is hitting and distributing the black on his mask. I'm going to go back to my regular Sharpie, and I'm just going to add a little something right there, just cause it wouldn't look right if I have the cape going down far enough, but you can't see his terrifying bat symbol, because everybody knows murderous criminals and madmen who blow up children's hospitals for the fun of it would be scared of that. Woo. For the cape and other stuff, you want to use your Sharpie to do your cross hatching or your hatching, whichever you want to call it, just because those are going to be very dark in the end-all product. Don't forget, there is a muscle right there that separates the collarbone from your lat, the muscle on your back that connects to your neck. You want to do that a little bit, then come in behind, and if you add this behind your characters when you draw them, it's a comic book thing that for some reason just really makes them pop. Kind of darken the line around them a little bit more, make them stand out. And voila. That is how you draw Batman. I hope some of you watch this. I hope you find it useful, and I hope you use it to learn more. If y'all want to learn how to draw anything else specifically, if I know, I'd be happy to show you. Just send me a message and I'll upload it. Thanks.